toyai azia EVRYTA and kahean yo life shaiheng yiwe wisdom. The moment you stop waiting for transformation and start creating it, everything shifts. The second, view this daily and transform your existence. Most individuals anticipate life's metamorphosis. They anticipate the career, the relationship, the revelation. Yet existence doesn't shift because you anticipate. It transforms when you transform. And transformation doesn't occur in one dramatic instant. It unfolds silently each day through practice, through consciousness, through decision. View this once and it will motivate you. View this daily and it will reconstruct you. Because the reality is straightforward. The universe surrounding you cannot evolve until you do. Each dawn you awaken with one silent but crucial choice. Replicate your history or ascend into your destiny. That instant before the universe rushes forward, before you browse, before you utter words is not mundane. It's holy. It's the fresh beginning that most individuals treat as insignificant. They awaken and immediately surrender that instant to the commotion. They examine messages before they examine their breathing. They browse before they pause. They respond before they contemplate. And without awareness, they're not existing, they're re-existing. They're not constructing, they're duplicating. Each day resembles the previous because they never paused sufficiently to shatter the pattern. And thus their practices become mechanical. Their thoughts become borrowed, and their existence becomes a gradual reflection of everything they've previously accomplished. This explains why most individuals remain trapped, not because they lack aspiration, but because they lack ceremony. They awaken and desire something transforms without ever transforming the initial hour that determines everything. Yet the reality is the space between discipline and devastation is impossibly narrow. It's one choice, one breath, 1 hour. That's everything needed to alter momentum. 1 hour of harmony before the turmoil can generate the lucidity that redirects your complete path. And that lucidity accumulates gradually, quietly, forcefully, not in a theatrical eruption, but in the modest, steady forces that begin to establish confidence between who you are presently and who you understand you can evolve into. When you claim that hour and commit it to yourself, not to pride, not to avoidance, but to harmony, you alter the course of your day. And when you alter sufficient days, you alter your existence. You cease existing in response and begin existing in innovation. Cease pursuing energy and begin producing it. You cease offering your focus to the most vocal presence in the space and begin nourishing it, the voice you selected, the energy you selected, the path you selected. That's where metamorphosis commences, not in sentiment, but in framework, in the repeatable choice to educate your mind before the universe attempts to possess it. That's why this instant, this communication, this breath cannot be a singular spark. It must be a ceremony, not when it's suitable, when you feel inspired. Daily, persistently, with respect, because practice is what constructs character, and character is what influences conduct. You don't ascend by determination. You ascend by conditioning, by selecting what enters your mind when it's most receptive, when it's most susceptible. And that's always the morning. Before the communications, before the commotion, before the universe begins requesting portions of you. That's when you must educate. That's when you must determine who you are and remind yourself until it becomes authentic. If you desire to alter your actions, don't begin with conduct. Begin with surroundings. Begin with what you absorb when your defenses are lowered and your spirit is attentive. Provide it power, provide it meaning, provide it quietude. And then eventually, it will return to you a fresh character, one that doesn't need to strive harder because it no longer identifies with frailty, one that doesn't fear stumbling because its principles have already transformed. If you desire to alter your destiny, alter what you practice, not what you fantasize about, not what you discuss, what you execute. And what you execute steadily becomes who you are. Regardless of how distant off path you've been, regardless of how many days you've squandered, you're always one morning away from recovering the route. But you must begin now. You must defend the hour that constructs your future self. Not eventually, not when you feel prepared now. The universe will never cease demanding your focus. But if you offer yourself to yourself first each day, you won't simply maintain pace. You guide. You'll innovate. You'll ascend. Individuals frequently state, I desire tranquility. I desire assurance. I desire concentration. But these are not elements you discover by chance. They're not elements someone can deliver to you. They don't arrive through quotations, through fortune, through a sudden change in disposition. They're not rewards that appear when the timing feels appropriate. They are constructed, gained, developed like strength. And like strength, they only expand through opposition. Tranquility isn't something you encounter accidentally. It's created in quietude. Not merely external quietude, but internal quietude. The variety of quietude you defend. The variety you battle for. The variety you establish boundaries around so you can hear your own breathing again. You don't achieve tranquility by hoping for reduced disorder. You achieve tranquility by becoming the type of individual who isn't governed by disorder. Assurance isn't something you're created with. It doesn't miraculously emerge when existence proceeds well. It's something you gain gradually, quietly, by maintaining your commitments to yourself. Each time you state, I will accomplish this, and then you accomplish it, you transmit a communication to your subconscious, I am someone I can depend on. That's where assurance is constructed. Not in applause, not in external approval, but in the modest choices you duplicate when no one is observing. Assurance isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. Genuine assurance appears in how you enter a space without explanation. In how you respond instead of react, in how you guide, not with commotion, but with certainty. That certainty originates from confidence, and confidence originates from consistency. Concentration, too, is not gifted. It's developed. It's not about feeling motivated or possessing the perfect surroundings. It's about eliminating the commotion repeatedly each day until your mind finally begins to comprehend that you won't pursue every distraction anymore, that you won't examine every notification, that you won't allow your focus to be captured by individuals who don't appreciate it. You develop your mind like a canine. You instruct it to sit, remain, return, and initially it resists. It runs uncontrolled, but eventually it obeys. It begins to settle, and from that stillness, your work becomes deeper. Your thoughts become clearer. Your presence becomes undeniable. These are not talents. They are disciplines. And discipline doesn't appear when you feel good. It doesn't care about emotion. It appears each day in the practice, in the framework. In the morning, you didn't desire to rise, but you did. In the evening, you desired to surrender, but you persevered. Discipline is not attractive. It's not glamorous, but it is forceful, because when you construct it, you begin to shape an existence that's no longer at the mercy of your feelings. You must comprehend this reality. Each single day, you are being conditioned either by the universe or by yourself. There is no neutral condition. There is no off. Everything you absorb, everything you listen to, everything you observe, everything you browse past, it's writing instructions into your mind. It's shaping your thoughts. It's defining your concentration. It's forming your self-value. And if you do nothing, if you passively allow the universe to write that instruction, the universe wins. The advertisements win. The drama wins. The gossip wins. The commotion becomes your soundtrack. And eventually you don't even understand where your desires originated from. You don't even understand what tranquility feels like, because your complete system has been constructed by what surrounds you. But you can shatter that. You can reclaim it. It won't occur in one day. It won't occur by accident, but it will occur if you commit. Each morning, select to connect to something that sharpens you, not numbs you. Something that reminds you of who you are, not who the universe desires you to be. Something that silences the commotion and amplifies the clarity. Wisdom is not concealed. It's simply drowned. But you can return to it. You can construct a morning ceremony that filters your mind before the universe fills it. You can create a space that feeds your direction before the distractions arrive. And when you execute that daily, when that becomes your framework, everything transforms. You don't pursue tranquility. You walk in it. You don't fabricate assurance. You radiate it. You don't plead for concentration. You exist from it because you didn't anticipate those elements to appear. You constructed them like a craftsman, like a warrior, like a man who understands that the universe may be loud, but he's louder inside. You were not created to be overwhelmed. That constant sense of urgency, exhaustion, and disorder that so many individuals wear like a second skin. It's not your natural condition. It's a symptom of drift, of neglect. You were not constructed to be distracted. Your mind wasn't designed to pursue 20 elements at once. Your soul wasn't wired to be divided across endless tabs, texts, and trivial decisions. And yet, that's how most individuals exist, scattered, exhausted, numb. Not because they're weak, but because they've forgotten how to be still. They've forgotten how to listen. They've forgotten the power that returns when you cease offering your existence to commotion and begin reclaiming it through discipline. You were not created to feel powerless in your own mind. You were constructed for clarity, for strength, for awareness. That fog you feel, that anxiety, that pressure, those are the results of allowing the universe to condition you before you condition yourself. It occurs gradually. You cease selecting yourself. You cease carving time for quietude. You skip the morning stillness. You trade presence for performance. And eventually, your inner framework begins to decay. Not because something is wrong with you, but because anything neglected deteriorates. When you cease appearing for your mind begins working against you. When you cease providing your nervous system space to breathe, it begins gasping for control. When you cease creating your day intentionally, the day begins to own you. But here's the element. Decay is not the conclusion. It's a signal. It's an invitation to return, to come back to yourself. And the doorway is simpler than most think. You don't need to overhaul your complete existence overnight. You need to sit down with yourself each day, even if just for 5 minutes with no phone, no commotion, just breathe, just stillness. That's where the reconnection begins. Your spine straightens not from pride, but from remembrance. You breathe deeper, not because it's trendy, but because you finally allowed space for your body to soften. Your thoughts begin to quiet, not because existence got easier, but because you ceased feeding the frenzy. And gradually, something ancient stirs inside you, a presence, a groundedness, a clarity. And you begin to remember, I am not my fear. I am not my failures. I am not the anxious voice looping in my head. I am the observer. I am the one who selects how to respond. That realization isn't model. It's the reset. It's the root of sovereignty, the beginning of genuine power. Because the instant you remember you have a choice, the universe loses its grip on you. That is the key. You cannot control the universe. You never could. But you can control how you meet it. You can control how you appear to disorder, how you hold your frame in the middle of storms. You can control your posture, how you sit, how you stand, how you move with presence instead of panic. You can control your words when you speak, how you speak, and whether you speak from emotion or clarity. You can control your practices, what you execute when no one is observing, how you use your first hour, what you offer your energy to. These aren't just modest victories. These are your anchor. Your ceremonies become your reminder that you are not lost. You are constructing something even when no one sees it. And when you execute this, when you reclaim that control, when you exist from presence instead of pressure, existence begins to shift. Existence begins to respect you, not in a mystical, magical way, but practically. You appear to conversations with more gravity. You walk into spaces and individuals feel something different. Not louder, not flashier, just deeper. Your practices begin to speak for you. Your energy begins to communicate who you are before you say a word. Opportunities begin to move toward you, not because you pleaded for them, but because you became someone who's ready. Individuals begin to trust you not because you forced it, but because your discipline now carries the weight your words once attempted to fabricate. This is the power of return, the power of quiet framework, the power of appearing for yourself, not once, not when it's easy, but each day. If you can execute that, even in the smallest window of time, you begin to reclaim the very element the universe is attempting to steal from you, your presence. And presence is power, not loud, not aggressive, but unshakable. Now, let me provide you the most important reality, the one that most individuals overlook while pursuing complexity, while jumping from one insight to the next, from one motivational hit to the next. Here it is. Existence does not transform when you comprehend something once. It transforms when you remember it each single day. You don't evolve from one powerful quotation. You don't transform from one emotional video. The human mind doesn't work that way. The nervous system doesn't work that way. Transformation is not an event. It's a layering, a wiring, a groove that gets deeper and stronger through practice. That's why monks duplicate mantras. That's why warriors run the same drills repeatedly. That's why musicians rehearse the same scale until their fingers don't have to think. It's not because they're slow. It's because they comprehend something most individuals don't. Mastery is not constructed by inspiration. It's constructed by ceremony. Wisdom that is not revisited becomes dust. Knowledge that is not reinforced becomes commotion. If you desire to transform the direction of your existence, don't pursue more information. Select one reality and burn it into your system through practice. This is why your morning matters. This is why what you listen to in the first 10 minutes after waking matters. Because that window when your brain is open, when your subconscious is listening, when your body is waking, that is when reprogramming occurs. Most individuals waste that window. They examine notifications. They open the floodgates of distraction. They browse through images that trigger comparison, opinions that ignite emotion, commotion that fractures attention, and then they wonder why their concentration is gone before noon, why they're overwhelmed before breakfast. But it's not the universe's fault. It's a lack of framework. It's a lack of ceremony. One communication duplicated daily will accomplish more for your mindset than 100 random inputs absorbed unconsciously. The question is, which communication are you duplicating? Is it intentional? Is it aligned? Is it yours? If you duplicate this communication, this presence, this discipline, this mindset each morning, something powerful begins to occur. Your brain ceases treating it like a motivational instant and begins treating it like a command. You are no longer attempting to be focused. You are focused. You are no longer reminding yourself to remain on track. You simply cease drifting because you educated yourself to return. You educated your mind to seek quietude before stimulation, to seek purpose before pleasure, to seek clarity before action. And from that place, your conduct begins to transform. Not because you're forcing it, but because it has become your baseline. Eventually, you won't need reminders to be disciplined. You will act that way without negotiation, not because you're fabricating it, but because you've instructed your body to follow your direction, not your distraction. You won't need to hype yourself up to remain focused. You'll simply value your energy too much to scatter it. That's what occurs when practice replaces randomness. Your nervous system gets familiar with tranquility. Your mind begins to trust your word. Your practices begin to reinforce your character. And from that character, you begin appearing differently in each area of existence. Your speech slows down. Your responses become calmer. Your planning becomes sharper. You begin walking like someone who isn't pleading for direction because you've already selected yours. That is genuine freedom, not perfection, not the illusion of always being in control, but the reality of being present enough to select your next step, to recognize when you're off course and correct it, to notice when your energy is leaking and pull it back, to awaken and instead of being pulled by the universe, You center yourself before the universe even speaks. That freedom doesn't originate from talent. It doesn't originate from emotion. It originates from what you allow into your mind each single day. What you listen to, what you read, what you meditate on, that becomes your internal voice. That becomes your compass. And if you execute it with discipline, it becomes your edge. You desire to exist different, think different repeatedly. You desire to construct clarity. Feed it consistently. You desire to embody discipline. Duplicate the process until it becomes character. That's the doorway. Not more, but deeper, not louder, but clearer. The man who controls his inputs will control his direction. And the man who controls his direction doesn't need more motivation because he has become it. So if this communication speaks to you, don't just listen once. Don't allow it to be a passing feeling that fades the instant the universe gets loud again. Allow it to return. Allow it to root. Allow it to become part of your wiring. Because the reality is practice is how the brain learns to trust. Not once, not sometimes, each single day. Return to this communication. Make it your alarm, not just for your phone, but for your mind. Play it in the morning before the universe grabs you. Allow it to be the soundtrack of your stillness. Allow it to shape your first thoughts, your first breath, your first decision. This isn't about hype. It's about precision, about conditioning, about replacing the scattered voices of fear, distraction, doubt, and pressure with one voice, one tone, one rhythm, a voice that is focused, clear, grounded, until that voice becomes your own. This is how internal metamorphosis occurs. Not by pursuing 100 different communications, but by selecting one and duplicating it until it becomes part of your nervous system, until your default setting is discipline, until your self-talk is no longer emotional commotion, but quiet strength, and you don't need to announce it. You don't need to post about it. You just exist it. You walk into your day with framework while everyone else is still browsing. You maintain your word while others negotiate with their feelings. You concentrate while others respond. And gradually your results begin to transform. Your assurance begins to feel genuine. Your energy becomes respected, not because you asked for it, but because you've become someone who guides without needing attention. This is the new standard: quiet, committed, relentless. So if that's what you're constructing, subscribe, remain close, remain sharp, because this space is constructed for individuals who don't just desire motivation, but framework. If you're serious about constructing your mornings around clarity, constructing your character through daily action, and mastering your energy before the universe touches it, then the next level is below. It's not about more hype. It's about more depth. A system, a rhythm, a return each single day. Not for attention, but for alignment. Duplicate this communication. Allow it to hit your nervous system. Allow it to be your reminder. When your discipline fades, allow it to speak for you. On the days when your own voice feels shaky, and with time, you won't need the communication anymore because you will have become it. Duplicate it. Exist it, educate it, and observe how your complete existence begins to transform quietly, powerfully, completely.